Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something. I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this edition of Next on the Tee, where golf legends live and your game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and what a joy it is to have you back again with me for this episode. Can't tell you how much I appreciate each and every one of you for what you do to the show and for making Next on the Tee a part of your weekly golf content. As you guys know, huge dose of vitamin G for your pressing play, and like I say, being here again this week. In appreciation of that, I've got two of the very best instructors lined up for you to help you understand the game a little bit better and to get you ready for the new golf season, which I hope is finally upon us. Shout out to everyone who has been dealing with a long, cold, and very snowy winter. It's March, so spring has to be right around the corner for all of us. In this episode, we're going to talk a little PGA Tour, a little mental game approach, get you some tips if you're on your way out to the golf course or the driving range today that can help you make a difference on your scorecard. Leading things off for us is, of course, our resident director of instruction, Tom Patri. Can't talk about the best instructors in the game without mentioning TP. He and I start off talking about how quickly fortunes can turn around on the PGA Tour, both positively and negatively. You probably remember Luke Clanton announcing his presence on the PGA Tour as an amateur. Going back to 2022, he was the number one ranked amateur in the world. Became the first amateur since 1958 to have back-to-back top 10s out on the PGA Tour. Finished tied for second at the John Deere Classic, finished 10th at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. He would go on to get two more top 5s later on that season. Did so well that over a rolling 12 months, he earned his PGA Tour card. And then things start to slip backwards. So I'll get TP's insights on that, why it happened, and what may be in store for Luke as we look ahead to the remainder of 2026 and this tour season. Then we reach back a couple of weeks and talk about Shane Lowry's collapse at the Cognizant Classic. That was on the heels of another struggle he had coming down the stretch at the Dubai Classic back in January when he let that lead go on the 18th hole. So should we be worried about Shane and where his mental game is when he's coming down the stretch? From there, we discuss Akshay Bhatia's charge to overtake Daniel Berger to win the Arnold Palmer Invitational. What a great run that kid had on the back nine. Each and every day, he just tore up the back nine there at Bay Hill. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, TP shares a couple of playing lessons when the game humbles you, and it does to all of us, right? One day you think you've got the game figured out. The next day, it's like you never played before. Tom shares some things when the game humbled him and how he worked his way out of it. Hopefully that can help us all when the game comes for you. It does, but you can get back out of that. TP shares that. Plus, mini drivers are becoming all the rage. Some players like Jim Furyk, for instance, replacing their 3-woods with a mini driver. How the heck can you hit a mini driver off the deck? Well, guess what? TP put one in his bag. He's going to share a tip for how we can do it as well. Following Tom is another one of the all-time greats, Nick Bradley. Nick coached guys like Nick Faldo, Paul McGinley, and Justin Rose. Nick Bradley's a force in our game. He's got so much great content available for you out on his site, bradleygolf.com. Nick and I discussed the future of the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and Live Golf. Where does he see those things going? You'll hear what he has to say. He also shares his thoughts on Anthony Kim's amazing comeback and win and the unfortunate poo-pooing some media members tried to put on that. Then I get his thoughts on the European Ryder Cup, running it back again with Luke Donald as the captain, and what Nick thinks the U.S. team needs to do in order to be more competitive next time around. Then we move on to a comment that Nick made last month about how he feels that Tiger is focused on winning the U.S. Senior Open now. He believes that Tiger is going to go out. He'll use a cart there. Why he believes Tiger is so motivated and so focused on winning that tournament. You'll hear all about that. Then we switch gears and talk about the flood of data that is now coming into golf instruction. Plus, he also gives us a playing tip as well. If you're on your way to go play a round of golf, you're on your way to the range, he's got something for you. Now, something you might not know about Nick Bradley is he's also a fantastic musician, brilliant guitar player and singer. New album out on the way, which I can't wait to hear. So a ton of great stuff for you in segment number 2 from Nick Bradley. You're going to love him. I think he's just one of the very best. He joins me about a half an hour from now. So, folks, another great show lined up, ready to kick off for you. So thank you again, as always, for pressing play and being a part of this week's show. So sit back, relax, let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next hour or so. And hey, a special shout out to the guys over at FeedSpot. They sent out their rankings of the best golf podcasts, and Next on the Tee made the cut. Thank you to all of them, and of course to all of you. Check out all their great stuff by going online to podcast.feedspot.com. And folks, if you would please, do me a favor, wherever you're listening to this show right now, if you would take just a couple of seconds to subscribe and rate the show, it would go a long way towards getting Next on the Tee out in front of more listeners just like you. Okay, you know I like to get things started shouting out the wonderful people that help to sponsor this show, starting with my great friends over at the Trib. TribLive.com is the leading news website in Western Pennsylvania, with news around the clock, Pittsburgh pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, and a podcast network, which is where you can find Next on the Tee. Bookmark TribLive.com or download the Trib Live app for free and stay up to date with the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. And because it's never too early for chocolate, their double chocolate Bock is back for the season, and it's the perfect companion for a cozy winter evening. Check out all of their wonderful beers and their gift shop by going online to pittsburghbrewing.com. In golf, fast isn't a nice-to-have, fast is a necessity, and speed off the tee is where it all starts. That was precisely the thinking behind the all-new QI4D family of drivers from TaylorMade, our fastest, most fittable drivers. Built to meet the demands of the world's best players like Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Nelly Korda, and the rest of Team TaylorMade. The QI4D lineup was engineered to unlock the 4 dimensions of speed, starting with a multi-material driver head with enhanced aerodynamic shaping, combined with a faster face and our revolutionary React shaft system. The TaylorMade QI4D drivers are ready to extract every bit of speed from every golfer's unique swing profile. Our industry-leading adjustability and fitting unlocks it all. Watch the full story of QI4D, our quest to build the fastest, most fittable drivers, and unlock your newfound speed at TaylorMadeGolf.com/findingfast. Okay, now joining me from lovely Naples, Florida, is our rockstar resident director of instruction, Tom Patri. This is the 130th time that I've introduced Tom, so you know everything about his career by now. You know he was a 2-time first-team All-American at Florida Southern and the Division II National Champion in 1981. You also know that he is a member of the Sunshine State Conference Hall of Fame and played all over the globe from 1981 to 1988. He's a legend in the Mets section and the former director of instruction at Westchester Country Club. He's been named the Teacher of the Year everywhere he's been. Golf Magazine named him a Top 100 alumni instructor, and I couldn't be more honored to have the great man back again with me this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, TP, how are you, my friend?
Hey, boy.
TP, how are you?
I
Chris, unbelievable, just unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah,
I can tell by the enthusiasm in your voice.
It's overwhelming, isn't it?
It really is. Can I share that with you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so let's get going because I want to start off talking about some things that have happened around the PGA Tour over the last few weeks, starting with how hard it is to go from being a top amateur to being a full-time player out on tour. Luke Clanton is a guy that you and I have talked about off air over the last few weeks. He was the number one amateur in the world. If you go back to 2022 and 2024, he became the first amateur since 1958, Tom, to finish in the top 10 in back-to-back weeks out on the PGA Tour. He did so, finishing 10th at the Rocket Mortgage Classic and then tied for second at the John Deere. Later in the year, he had two more top fives. Then in February of 2025, he made the cut at the Cognizant Classic, which earned him enough points to get his PGA Tour card. But since that time, he missed 5 cuts over his last 14 tournaments that he played in 25. The best finish he had was a tied for 29th. And then this year, he missed his first 3 cuts. Now, he did finish tied for 5th last week at the Puerto Rican Open, which is an opposite field event. But talk about how quickly fortunes can turn for players when they become a full-time player out on the tour.
It's unbelievable because I thought after that little string of tournaments as an amateur and a senior at Florida State that this kid was, pretty much, a no-brainer to step out there his freshman year and be rookie of the year, do some great things, maybe win a golf tournament. He put himself in position so many times and then just absolutely disappeared, vanished on us. So hard to explain. Maybe a little too much success too quickly. Don't know. I mean, obviously very, very talented. His college record speaks for itself. His record in those events as an amateur was outstanding. So I don't have an explanation for that, but I've been watching it pretty closely, and I'm sure he's very disappointed. It's been more than disappointing for those around him and his team, I'm sure too. I just think he's too good. I think he'll right the ship at some point. Maybe it's a comfort thing. Maybe it's a little bit too much success too soon. We should watch this one closely. There's more to come here.
And speaking of things that change quickly, Daniel Berger this past week at the API had a 5-stroke lead a couple of different times during the course of the tournament. It looked like he was going to be a runaway winner, but Akshay Bhatia, Tom, the guy owned the back 9 all 4 days. He was brilliant, played it in 15 under par to storm back and then win it in a playoff. Talk about what you saw from both those guys. Berger's
resurrected his career twice now, Chris, from some serious situations and some serious injuries. I don't think Berger is done with his career. He's a very good player. He's a grinder. He knows how to compete. He knows how to score. He knows how to go low. Unfortunate the way he played the back 9 and flip-flopped it with Akshay, who just, birdies 10, 11, 12, and 13, makes a bogey on 15, then almost makes a double eagle on 16 and kind of basically taps it in for 3 for eagle to turn the tide. And then Berger made a really terrible mess of 17 after hitting a respectable shot to the back edge of the green. And then turns around and makes a brilliant putt to keep himself alive on 18 and thinking, okay, he righted the ship, but then makes a bogey in the playoff. So it was a crazy up. I got to watch almost the whole back 9. It was a crazy back and forth, up and down thing. Akshay has done, we forget how young this guy is. And he's got 3 wins under his belt now. First, obviously, win on the signature event, but he's played really good in a lot of events. I mean, he's had a lot of high finishes besides the 3 wins. Obviously, very talented. And people thought he was crazy when he turned pro as young as he did, but he's proved everybody wrong. And he's just playing great golf and pretty consistent golf. And he doesn't look like there's anything holding him back from going further. I mean, a lot of talent there. It's really kind of enjoy watching him. He's kind of a little bit of an anomaly to me. Skinny as a rail, a little bit of funk in the golf swing, but hits it a long ways. But not having a lot of meat on his bones, has creates a lot of speed. And he's kind of figured out the putter with the funky left-handed split hand broomstick. Just kind of cool to watch it.
And we'll be right back. You guys know what a fan I am of On Point Golf. Folks, get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only 3-dimensional ball marker with alignment technology and a removable coin. It is approved for use according to the rules of golf as defined by the USGA and the R&A. As we all know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your 3-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and lower your scores. Folks, with the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals and amateurs alike out there using them now, it's the #1 ball marker in golf that actually helps you lower your scores. Go online to onpointgolf.us, read about the science behind it, then put one in your bag and make more putts. I feel like it's the 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let On Point help yours as well? Again, onpointgolf.us. Check them out and get one in your bag today.
Sure, this is golf, but so is this. And this. And this is definitely golf. And so is this. Hey, that's not golf. Oh, wait, yeah, it is. And no matter what your golf is, you're gonna need a store. No, a superstore. A place to get fit for a new club and walk out with it the same day. A place to find the perfect fit. A place to do whatever this is. Because this is golf. And this is Golf's Superstore.
Now let's get back to the show. Let's go back a few weeks, Tom, back to the Cognizant Classic. And there's a guy that I'm worried about that I don't want to be worried about, and that is Shane Lowry. He's a guy that double bogeyed the last 2 holes coming in that tournament to come up short. If you go back a little further at the Dubai Classic on the DP World Tour, kind of a similar thing. He double bogeys the last hole to let that one get away from him. I mean, here's a guy that's won all over the world. He's won a major championship. Go back to the 2019 Open. His last win, though, hasn't been since 2022 on the PGA Tour. I don't want to have to worry about Shane Lowry and this getting in his head. Are you concerned at all that coming down the stretch now that it's happened to him twice, that some of the dark shadows could start creeping in when he's got a lead, maybe a small lead coming down the 72nd hole?
You know, it's funny how the tide can turn, huh, Chris? I mean, if you talked to me about Shane Lowry at the end of last year, I already said, one of the better players in the world and had a lot of upside. Certainly to finish at Cognizant, making 2 doubles in a row on 16 and 17 when, basically you had nothing to lose by hitting either of those shots, a tee shot on 16 or the shot on the par 3 17 left of left, and makes both mistakes right. He makes a mistake right on 17 with a back right pin and water right when he could have hit it 45 feet left of the pin, and it was, kind of game, set, match. So hit 2 really bad golf shots right when there was no business even looking right in any way, shape, or form. And kind of a similar meltdown in Dubai, like you said. Am I worried about him? No, I'm really not. I mean, he's a really good player. He's got his head on pretty good. He had a kind of a funky stretch of 2 bad things happening. But I think he's too talented to give up on him. I really do.
So, Tom, you've played golf at the highest level, and at some point, the game humbles all of us. It's obviously humbled Shane. When did that happen to you, and how did you overcome it?
Chris, and I've not played it at the highest level. I've gotten close to that level, but let's be fair. I was kind of let's say I was a guy in AAA baseball. I was just one step away. So I got caught. I sniffed that area, and in sniffing that area, I had some of those meltdowns. I definitely had. Let's go back to my college career, my junior year in college, and although I won that Division II national championship my senior year, my junior year, I led for 3 rounds and was standing on the 15th tee, thinking I was still leading, when my college coach informed me that a guy that I know very well had shot 65 the last round and come out of nowhere and was in the clubhouse, and I was now 2 shots behind with 3 to play. And I birdie 16 and birdie 17 to get even, and then 18 I leave a 5-footer dead in the middle short. I mean, looking over the edge of the hole to lose by 1. So I go birdie, and then make kind of a weak bogey on 18 to lose by 1. And that was in just outside of New Orleans. That led to a lot of alcohol that night, and a lot of moaning and groaning about playing that last hole the way I did. And that's just one. I've had more occurrences. I made a Sterling, Chris. You like this? I made a Sterling 13 on a hole in South Africa on the South African tour.
Ooh.
After shooting 72 the first round and playing in a 40, I'm not kidding, a 35, 40 mile an hour wind the second day, and made 13 on the par 4 and shot 81. So if you do the math and you make par there, well, you can figure that out. I make the cut by 1 million and missed the cut by, ready for this? By 1.
Oh, my.
By 1. So that also led to some alcohol that night. And you think about it, how do you make 13 swings on a golf ball? Well, I did. I made all 13 of them all by myself. So, I mean, you do those things, and then you have to get up the next day and travel and get to the next tournament and put your head back on and get back in the game. So, people don't realize out there how many funky things happen that don't get reported, by really fine players. And then 2 weeks later, they win a golf tournament, or 2 weeks later, they, finish in the top 5 or shoot 61 in one of the rounds. You need a really, really thick skin to play out there week in and week out, because there are going to be some crazy things that happen. It's a crazy game. It has a lot of crazy ups and downs. And anybody that's out there competing and keeping their status out of the PGA Tour has an amazing resiliency and a very short memory. And you need that. You need a thick skin, resiliency, and a very short memory of those things have to just disappear. You have to hit the restart button and keep on going, because if you carry those things forward, and that's why I don't think Shane will do that. I mean, he's a veteran. It's not the first time he had a meltdown in his life. I can promise you that. To sustain a career like he has out there, he probably has those qualities.
Tom, I was listening. Jim Furyk recently joined a podcast, and on it, he was asked if he could change one rule in golf, what would it be, right? That's a pretty standard question. But he responded by saying he would reduce the size of the head of the driver. And his reasoning is he has a mini driver in his bag instead of a 3-wood. And he said he can hit it almost as far as his driver, as long as he gets center club face contact. But if he thins it, hits it a little off the toe, a little off the heel, loses significant distance. So if the driver heads were smaller, players couldn't just step up and swing with all their might. They'd have to dial it back a little bit for accuracy. What if the PGA Tour did do that? And they did that instead of all this stuff that we've been talking about over the last several years about dialing the golf ball back. What do you think of that idea?
I can't believe you just asked me this question, because you don't know this, but I have a mini driver in my bag.
Really?
I've taken my 3-wood out and put it in. So as an old man, I'm carrying a driver, a mini driver, a 5-wood, and a 7-wood. And actually, I played 9 holes with members today and hit that mini driver on 2 occasions. And luckily, I did hit it in the middle of the face, and it did go almost as far as my driver. But to your point, which is correct, if you hit it a little bit off center, you lose quite a bit. Interesting thought. Jim has, and Furyk has always been a very thoughtful guy about changing things and sharing his opinion. It's usually been pretty spot on. That's an interesting concept. Changing the head of the driver instead of the golf ball. I hadn't thought about it, but it makes sense if that's what you wanted to do. But we've talked about changing rules before, and the golf ball and the rollback before, and I still contend that once the cow's out of the barn, you can't put them back in. You just can't. I would rather see course setups change. I think we play golf on tour with far too little rough. Very, very wide fairways, and absolutely perfect conditions on the greens. I think if hitting it out of the fairway and fairway size was more penal, I think you'd see a lot of different things happening. You see a lot of different shots hit off the tee instead of that driver and kind of just drive it down there wherever you can. I live in the state of Florida, and people say, well, I hit it in the rough. And I usually say to them, what rough? Because I grew up in the Northeast, and when you grow up playing places like Wingfoot and Westchester Country Club and Quaker Ridge and Shinnecock and places like that, when you hit it out of the fairway, you have a problem. You have a real problem advancing the golf ball, and bogey is usually a good score in many cases. and I'm not talking about Twin Eagles or Calusa Pines or Seminole or wherever, Bay Hill, but you saw Bay Hill this week. There was some penal rough, okay, but the fairways were pretty wide. Now, if those fairways were, let's just say 8 to 10 yards narrower with that same rough, you would have seen a different winning score, and you would have seen different things happen. So I think course setup is a big deal.
Tom, I've noticed you demonstrating some game improvement aids out on your Instagram page, something I'm not used to seeing you put out there on that page. What are those game improvement aids, and what are they going to help us do?
Well, Chris, the problem with you not seeing me do that very often, I didn't realize I did that, is that you've not taken me up on the offer to come visit on 174 different occasions when you've been invited down. And if you walked into the Learning Center at Twin Eagles, there are probably conservatively in the Twin Eagles Learning Center, I probably have conservatively 100 teaching aids in that room. Now, let me clarify. Over 44 years of this career, I've been sent 1,000 or 1,500 teaching aids to try, demonstrate, test, and give my opinion on. And I'm only have 100 in the bay because most of them don't say what they say they do. Most of them break or fall apart very easily, and I would never recommend somebody to buy something like that if it was going to fall apart on them. I wouldn't put my name behind it. So out of those 1,500 or whatever number of teaching aids have been sent, I've only retained about 100. Now, out of those 100, a year could go by and I could never touch one of them. But I might touch the same one 3 days in a row with 3 different people, depending on what they need. I use them to either change a motor skill pattern or to create a feel that they're not familiar with, a motor skill pattern that they've never had before. And I usually tie one of those aids to a drill. So yeah, you might have just seen it for the first time posting something like that because a particular distributor asked me to do some videos for him. But I think I did 5 or 6 different videos. And I also made it a point to do the same videos, both in the Learning Center, hitting shots and demonstrating, and as well as at home, expressing to people watching that they could do, kind of mirror work or at home what I call dry run work at home to change or replicate a feel they want to embrace in their movement to change a motor skill pattern. So there's a lot of aids in that Learning Center, a ton.
All right, so let's take that half a step further because I want to get a tip from you for the person that's listening to this show on their way to either the driving range or the golf course. What's a tip you can share? Something simple that might shave a stroke or two off someone's score today.
Are we relating this to a teaching aid?
Yeah, well, whether it's a teaching aid or just something that you think somebody, because they're gonna hear a 5-minute tip. What's something that they can take with them that might make a difference?
Okay, so one of the things I tell almost everybody that I work with is that face is the king and path is the queen. Face rules the world. If you don't have face control, you can't replicate a face delivery. You really can't play the game. I have some really fine college players who have what I would call very mediocre path in their golf swing, but have incredible face control and they play just fine. So one of those aids I demonstrated was called a swing guide, and people are out there can Google that and check it out. It's readily available in a lot of places, as well as golftrainingaids.com, which is the company that I do business with. But I put that on the club, and the way you use that aid, you can only put the face in a perfect condition at the top of your backswing. And I don't see very many faces at the top in transition that look very good or look like they're going to produce an online delivery or an online golf shot. So I think that when you have a training aid like that and you go to the range and put it on, you're getting some work done because you have really consistent and constant feedback. You either square this thing up or you don't. It'll punish you if you don't. It'll make you understand what you didn't do almost immediately. And feedback is so important. So many people leave a lesson and don't want to do a drill or don't want to use an aid, and they go to the range and they think they're doing great, but the golf ball tells them that it's not. And here's the thing I tell them, Chris, the golf ball never lies. If the golf ball doesn't do what you think it's going to do, then guess what? You didn't do what you thought you did. So having feedback and using an aid to give you feedback when you practice, I think makes that practice time much more productive.
All right. So remind everybody again, what's it called and where can they go get it?
It's called the Swing Guide, SWINGYD, and they can go to golftrainingaids.com and get it right there. And if they use the promo code Patri, Patri, golftrainingaids.com will discount it for them.
Wow, look at you with the discount code.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
All right. So, Tom, before I let you go, as always, remind people how they can find you, how they can follow you on social media, how they can find your website, and what's the number up to now? 461 videos?
So, yes, you made fun of me that day, so I'm not even going to tell you what the number is. So, tell me, who cares? Everybody listening out there, Chris told me, who cares, Tom? Who cares? off the air, of course. He's an angel. He's an angel on air, but he's not very nice off air. Let me tell you, he's just
not true.
Not nice.
That's fake news.
Not nice. So, website is tompatri.com. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. And just a little note for everybody out there in Cyberland, I just changed my email address, which is not changed all locations. Yeah, it's just changed. So you can scratch that one out, Chris. The new one is tpatrigolf@gmail.com. But the place they can really find me is every other Tuesday night at 8 o'clock on Next on the Tee. I think this was my 130th show, you said?
130.
Why would anybody do it? Why would anybody want to get involved with you 130 times? Explain that.
I was actually going the opposite direction, needing my head examined for opening the mic up to you 130 times. I don't know what the hell I was thinking.
And you know what? That's well said. And anytime you want me to leave, just close the door. Just close the door. We'll both be better off for that.
Indeed.
I'm kidding with you. It's a pleasure being on with you. You're the best in the business. Nobody does it better than you do. Nobody has a better lineup, with the exception of me, on air at all. You get great people on. The guy you have behind me tonight, his name is
Nick Bradley,
who's one of the really talented people out there teaching and coaching the game of golf. You have Hal Sutton, and we can go down a list, great names that you have on here, great teachers, great players, great industry people. Nobody does it better than Chris Mascaro, and nobody does it better than Chris Mascaro at Next on the Tee.
I love you, my friend. I can't thank you enough for everything you mean to me and what you mean to this show every other Tuesday night. You're the best, my friend, and I look forward to, I'm sure we'll talk in the morning, but I look forward to having you back on in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, pal. Love you.
See ya. That is the great Tom Patri, folks. And again, the new email address, tpatrigolf@gmail.com, golftrainingaids.com. Go out there and check out some of these things. Unbelievable. Like Tom says, if he's using them all the time, it is news to me. And, shame on me again. He has invited me down to the studio and to the place there a million times. And one of these days I am going to take him up on it. But a finer individual, a finer teacher, and a guy who's just got amazing insights you're not going to find anywhere. So go out there, check him out. Check out that YouTube page. I think it's 461 for the number of free videos that he's got available on his YouTube page. So look forward to catching up with him again soon. Coming up next is another guy who is one of the all-time great instructors in our game and has a tremendous perspective on what's going on in and around our game, and that is Nick Bradley. Before I bring Nick into the show, let me remind you about all the great things going on up at Macklemore, because this year, get ready to experience a game like never before at the Keep, the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course at Macklemore. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round here is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore. The Keep is open, and it's waiting for you. And folks, if you haven't tried 2 Under yet, you really need to. Why? Well, from the first tee to the clubhouse, 2 Under's Joey Pouch is going to keep you comfortable and locked in all round or all day. Build your own bundle by going online to 2 Under, that's the number 2, UNDR.com, and save up to 20%. Okay, now back at Next on the Tee with me is Nick Bradley. Nick is one of the top instructors in the history of our game. He has helped students win junior national amateur titles, plus players win things like the National Irish Championship, the French Open, and tour majors for all-time greats like Sir Nick Faldo and Paul McGinley. He helped Justin Rose go from number 125 in the world to number 5 in the world golf rankings. He also works with two of my partners here on the show in Squares and On Point Golf. He is consistently ranked among the top 100 teachers in the world and among the most popular teachers in the game. And it's great to have him back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Nick, thanks for coming back on the show.
Chris, thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Nick, I want to get right into it because I was intrigued by some of the things that I've seen you post recently out on social media. Not long ago, you tweeted out what you think the DP World Tour needs to do in order to make it more attractive to players again. Talk about what you think they need to do going forward.
Well, I think that ultimately any tour lives and dies by its sponsorship and the money coming in. So one of the things that I seem to highlight a lot of, and it's not going away anytime soon, is the fact that I think that there is a saturation point in golf now that we are reaching in terms of the amount of coverage that we're getting. So I just think that, if you think, not to sound like an old curmudgeon here, but, if you think back into the 80s and the 90s, you looked forward to the four majors, you looked forward to Memorial, you look forward to the PGA at Wentworth, you look forward to the Suntory match play. And unfortunately, a lot of these, aside from the majors, but a lot of the other fine tournaments that are on both tours have got sort of lost in the mire of, both tours being sort of, 42-week tours now. And I always look at it pragmatically that if I was a sponsor, if I was a financial institution or an insurance company or something, and I had a, odd $35 million budget for my advertising spend, why would I sponsor a tournament that would get lost in 42 rather than, a less is more philosophy where I would have some good visibility? So I think that there is nothing worse than a tournament being televised when you literally see nobody at the tournament spectating. And so I think that for me, if you want to stop muddying the water, to see clearly, stop stirring it. And I think that for me, I think we need to strip the tours down, which they're kind of talking about now on the PGA Tour, by the way. But I think particularly with Europe, which was your question, I just don't think it's attractive to any sponsors seeing some tournament out in Asia or, in Abu Dhabi or whatever, where nobody's watching. And I just think from a sponsorship perspective, which is the lifeblood of any tour, I think that's what we've got to go back to. We've got to go back to less is more, and we've got to introduce more quality tournaments at more quality venues. And not necessarily in terms of how many tournaments, but just make sure that the quality is up and the quantity maybe have to come down a little bit.
To your point, Nick, I think that is what Scott Roloff and Tiger have been talking about, right? That maybe the tour in 27 or somewhere thereafter needs to bring things back a little bit. Do you think that is what they'll end up doing?
I really do. I think that what they realize is they've probably had some very honest conversations with some of the big players that put money into the PGA Tour. And we know that, since Liv has come along, it's like, it's upset things. People have had to rethink the business model, and it has indeed been rethought and changed. And I think the next evolutionary step is to say, okay, how do we refine the product even more so there's more meaning? And that's the key word here. There's more meaning to what people are watching, rather than just golf every week, where the spectacle of a tournament is kind of lost. And for me, it always goes back to, if those conversations have been had, the basis of those conversations has been based around who is going to put the money into this tournament and what visibility are they going to get. And I think it goes down to the fact that a conversation was had, well, we don't want to be one of 42 tournaments. We want to be one of 12 or 14 or 20. That's good because we get the visibility, but we just don't want to be lost in the mire anymore.
Speaking of Liv, Nick, it doesn't seem to me that the PGA Tour and Live Golf are ever going to come together. Live appears to be doing well internationally. I mean, look at the crowds that they always draw over in Australia at the Adelaide tournament. To me, it would make more sense for them and the DP World Tour to kind of come together and make a huge international tour. How do you see the future of Live Golf?
Well, I think it's in quite a precarious position. I think if you look at it pragmatically from a capitalistic point of view, I think what Greg Norman did, being the face of it and driving the business, obviously he did very well. He launched it and got it global and everything. But I think where we are now in 2026 with Brooks Koepka kind of like transitioning over, and then Justin, and if you looked at Justin Rose's press conference today, he was asked directly about John Ram, and Justin's opinion, which I agree with, is that if John has to pay a fine to play in the Ryder Cup, well, you know what? That's just the cost of doing business, and I do agree with that. My own take on Live Golf is, they had the guts to come out with something different. It was well thought through. It's definitely entertainment on a different level to what we're used to on both of the tours. But my feeling is this. My feeling is that if John Ram does leave, if Bryson DeChambeau does leave, if one of the big pillars goes, not Sergio, is frankly not very impressive anymore. But if you look at one of those two going, I think that the whole thing could go like a house of cards. I don't see why the Saudis would put any more money into it.
So staying with Live Golf, Anthony Kim's amazing comeback and win there was so heartwarming to see. I hated to hear and read some folks that were out there kind of poo-pooing on his win.
Yeah.
How big was that win for the game?
It was fantastic. I mean, listen, we're all on this planet. We're all human beings. We're all trying to make the best of our lives. And unfortunately for Anthony, we all know the backstory there after the Ryder Cup in 08, 09. He was a phenom. He just went down the wrong track, and I'm not saying that could happen to anyone, but it happened to him. But for Liv and Norman especially, and whatever, to give the guy a vehicle to come back and, show off his talent again and gain the respect of his children and get his life on the straight and narrow. That's a victory for the game of golf first, and maybe the Live Tour second. What I wasn't particularly impressed with was obviously, I think some of the comments you're referring to. I think we had a couple of Golf Channel analysts there, and we kind of know who they are, who would poo-poo the fact that this was a victory of no substance at all, really. And they couldn't even bring themselves to congratulate him on, again, that humanistic level of coming through some just terrible times. My own opinion is that the game of golf gave this guy a vehicle to straighten up his life, get the respect of his family, gain a new fan base. And if that's what it's done, then, it's been worth it.
And we'll be right back. Are you familiar with one of the most eye-grabbing and innovative and fun brands of golf apparel out there, Sunday Swagger? While I tell you about them, go look them up online, sundayswagger.com. Are you tired of boring golf clothes? Well, Sunday Swagger is changing the game with premium performance apparel that delivers the look and feel of $100 polos for much, much less, while never sacrificing style for comfort. Their bold polos, shorts, and outerwear feature four-way stretch and moisture-wicking fabric that moves with you, whether you're crushing drives or crushing happy hour. With over 300 unique designs and vibrant colors ranging from bestsellers like Jawbreaker to exclusive collaborations with people like Guinness, Sunday Swagger offers something for everybody. And their matching prints for couples and families with children are flying off the shelves. You might even recognize some Sunday Swagger designs in popular Hollywood movies and TV shows, including Happy Gilmore 2. Sunday Swagger is guaranteed to turn heads and spark conversations. Visit sundayswagger.com and join the Sunday Club for exclusive drops and member benefits. Sunday Swagger. It's your swagger. Embrace it. Own it. And folks, Squares Golf, best golf shoes on the planet by far. It's not a gimmick. It's not marketing. It's science. Don't take my word for it. Let's hear from six-time major champion Sir Nick Faldo.
So Nick here. What if there was a golf shoe embraced by hundreds of thousands of golfers, celebrated for its stability, comfort and distance? What if this shoe earned the title of most technologically advanced golf shoe by Sports Illustrated? And what if the company behind that shoe spent the last year perfecting a brand new category of golf footwear? Well, the what if is here. Introducing the all-new Pro S2 LT by Squares, a new class all of its own, the perfect blend of lightweight comfort and stable performance. You'll notice the difference. Change your shoes, change your game. Squares.
Now back to the show. We've got the players coming up, and Bradl Chambly did what he does. He got golf fans all riled up saying the players should not only be a major, it would be the best major. I know the LPGA and the Champions Tours both have 5 majors, but in my opinion, I don't think the PGA Tour needs that. And from the looks of some of your social media posts, you don't either.
No, I mean, Bradl thinks he's, Christopher Hitchens or Gore Vidal. He thinks he's a polemicist, and bless him, he tries his best. But I mean, number one, we don't need another major, right? Again, less is more, right? We have our 4 beautiful majors with all the history attached to it. We bring another major in. What does that do to Jack's record? What does it do to Hogan's? It means that there's another Grand Slam all of a sudden. Well, that can't be right. And the other thing as well is Sawgrass. I played Sawgrass many times, obviously coached there many times. I was there last year with Seamus Power coaching him at the Players. Sawgrass is a fantastic tournament. It's good, but does it have the identity of an Open Championship where you have all of the irregular sort of weather conditions where you have to face the adversity? Does it have the staying power and the willpower that a US Open brings to the table? No, it doesn't. Does it have the artistry and the discipline that Augusta demands? No. What we would in fact do here, and let's all be honest about it, is we would just be ushering in just another PGA Championship. I mean, they played at Crooked Stick, which is a die course. Obviously, Daly won there, and I think Mark Brooks or someone. But there would be nothing unique about bringing it in. The thing about the Masters, the Open and the US Open is they have unique identities. If you look at the PGA Championship, which has always been the poor relation of the 4, why would Sawgrass be any different? I mean, the only way you could make it different would be to bring back a match play format, which they used to obviously do back in the 20s and 30s. But, Bradl is just... yeah, if you gave him an enema, you could bury him in a matchbox,
Nick, to the surprise of no one, we learned here in the last couple of days that Luke Donald has been named the European Ryder Cup captain again. And I think the European team should just keep running it back with as many of the same folks as they can until the U.S. proves that they can beat them. Do you think that's what the strategy is going to be for them going forward?
What for Luke to? Well, I mean, for number one, I'm absolutely delighted for Luke. I sent him a text message. Let's go and create some history. He's he has the respect of all of the players, all of the vice captains. He did an incredible job last 2 times. I guess the question is, what do the US have to do? I've been involved on a high level with 2 Ryder Cups, one with Sir Nick Faldo, which obviously didn't go too well, and then with one with Paul McGinley, who we really kind of changed the dynamic of what that team was. By my role was I designed all of the team room imagery and motivational sort of quotations, which also were chronological as well. They meant different things at different times during the tournament. But I think for the US team, honestly, it looks to me like every time the US team goes out, they're like a rudderless boat. They're playing for their country. We get it, right? They've got to put scores on the table. We get it. But that's the macro goal. That's well, duh. Well, of course. Okay. What are the micro goals? To me, there's not enough. No captain has come in saying that we want to win by this margin, we want to stroke out, we want to do this, we want to do, I think what they need to do is they need other levels of focus rather than just trying to win the thing. So, hopefully the next captain that comes in, that hasn't been announced yet, has it, Chris?
No, it has not.
No. Hopefully they they look at it in a slightly different way. The macro goals are always easy, right? They're easy. I think what the next captain needs to do is to really get personal with each player. Huddle. Really understand that maybe the notion of a team for the US is a bridge too far. Maybe it can't do it. Well, if that's the case, you got to put your arms around every player and get the best out of them, right? Maybe So, yeah, it's not an easy task for the next US captain, but I think with the right thinking, they can certainly break ground. It's going to be tough in Ireland, as you know. I mean, it's European vantage, but hey, listen, it will be an interesting job for whoever gets it.
Nick, the Tag 200 listed their top 200 golfers of all time. And they ranked Phil Mickelson ahead of Arnold Palmer, ahead of Walter Hagen, ahead of Tom Watson, all of whom won more majors than Phil has. Sir Nick Faldo, who has won as many majors as Phil, was all the way down at number 15. They had Sergio Garcia at 32 ahead of Justin Rose, who was at 40. Surely that can't be just based on, again, Rose against Garcia. It can't be just based on the Masters of 2017. That was a head scratcher for me. Talk about that list, and I'm disappointed with what they came up with. Everyone can rank whatever you want, however you want it, but I thought it was a disappointing list.
It was a disappointing list. As the great Daniel Kahneman, who was the Nobel Prize-winning statistician, said in his book Thinking Fast and Slow, you need a lot of data. You need a lot of data to do predictions and analytics in that style. And I just don't think there is enough. So what we got there was a very subjective list. Someone, had a few beers at the table and just started to write a list down. I think there's so much more to some of the players that were ahead of Tom Watson were frankly laughable. These, I don't place too much emphasis on these kind of like quasi lists and what have you. It was probably an AI generated one without a particularly intelligent prompt. So, we all know, I mean, I'll tell you, I'll answer one thing for you, is the Jack and Tiger debate. Who is better? Well, for me, it's Jack Nicklaus, and for one reason only, and that is Jack Nicklaus, in playing in the same tournament, beat everyone from Ben Hogan to Tiger Woods. And someone will say, well, Jack never beat Tiger in a major, where he did.
Yes,
in 1998, Jack finished tied 6th and Tiger Woods finished tied 12th, I think it was. So Jack Nicklaus has beaten everyone in major championship golf from Ben Hogan to Tiger Woods. That to me that seals the envelope. That's it.
Speaking of Tiger, last month you said that you think he's going to come out, use a cart, and play in the U.S. Senior Open, and he doesn't care about anything else in golf. Talk about why you think he is going to use a cart, and why winning the U.S. Senior Open is so important to him.
Well, I think he made a comment a couple of weeks ago in a press conference where he made the distinction of using a cart in a USGA event as opposed to a Champions Tour event. He said that he would in a Champions Tour event, but maybe obviously he wouldn't have to do it in a major. And he was very careful in what he said there. Now, for him to finish his trophy cabinet from US juniors all the way through to a US Senior Open Championship, that, trust me, that is what Tiger Woods is practicing for now. That's why he's rehabbing, etc., etc. If he wins that, and he will use a cart if he can, that will be Tiger waving out, his career, which he should do. So I think that he wants the full ticket here, Chris. He wants the trophy cabinet, everything from on the US side, done and dusted, from US juniors right through to a US Senior Open Championship.
Switching gears a little, Nick, so much has changed over the last 5 or 10 years in the instructional space. Technology has changed things, as Hal Sutton has said on this show several times. Back in the day, those guys used to dig it out of the dirt. Ball flight was how you could tell what was happening with the club face. But nowadays, it's all about swing speed, ball speed, angle of attack, smash factor, And at the PGA Merchandise Show, I was talking to the guys at TrackMan, and they said they're coming out with 9 new data points this year. Many of your peers that I have talked to about how, nowadays students immediately look at their TrackMan or down at the TrackMan that their teacher might have to see what their numbers are immediately after they strike the ball instead of looking out to see what the ball is doing. Has the pendulum swung too far over to the data side?
Yeah, Chris, we got to make a distinction between knowledge and wisdom. I think to be a great player, I think that you need, let's say, 25-30% knowledge, right? Because there's only so much that you can attributed to your tendencies, attributed to your physiology, so that's got a finite level to it, right? There's only so much knowledge that you, as a human being, as a PGA golfer, or an amateur for that matter, there's only so much you can absorb relative to those points, your physiology, your biomechanics, etc. So that leaves the other 70 or so percent, which is wisdom, which is the application of knowledge. So I think the data points that TrackMan and Full Swing and the rest of them are coming out with are absolutely fantastic, so long as they are relative to what the student needs. We all have different you might have a Justin Rose who's always looking at his face closure rate through the ball with his TrackMan and his GC quad, right? But then you might have someone like a Brooks Koepka who's looking at his face angle and his angle of attack into the ball. So as long as you could have 1 million data points, but as long as you're picking the right 2 or 3 relative to your game, then that's all that matters. You can turn the other ones off. So I think it's amazing that, you can have as many data points as you want. I think it comes down to the intelligence and the experience of the instructor. So, for example, I would typically turn the TrackMan on at the beginning of the lesson, highlight a couple of the numbers that I don't like relative to what I've seen, right? Relative to what my experience is telling me. I then work with the student like a bit of Play-Doh, get them to, drills, blah, 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 turn on the TrackMan at the end and see if there's been a difference made. I think that is the way that you use the tool, because the tool doesn't do the teaching. You're still doing the teaching. So yes, use it, but we eat food. We don't eat menus, right? And I think that with TrackMan, you've got to make sure that you use that knowledge and turn it into wisdom, which is the application of the knowledge.
Nick, you also work with a couple of my sponsors here on the show. When we saw each other down at the PGA Merchandise Show, you were spending some time with Bob Winskowitz, who is the founder of Squares Golf. You also work with our good friend Briston Peterson over at On Point Golf. Talk about why the Squares golf shoe and the On Point ball markers aren't gimmicks. There's real science behind why both products help you play your best golf.
Yeah, well, I was involved with Squares right from the get-go, with Faldo and I, coming in and doing the initial commercials and what have you. And the thing that my first book, The 7 Laws of the Golf Swing, and the second one, actually, Kinetic Golf, places. I mean, the third chapter in my first book is called Ground Force Dynamics. I mean, I wrote that back in 2003, which I can't believe now. But I've always had an appreciation, whether my heroes of legwork were always Mo Norman, Lee Trevino, obviously Snead. You can look, Hogan. Not particularly, especially in the case of Hogan, not particularly strong, kind of like heavy guys, but absolutely ripped it because they used the ground properly. So if you look at Squares golf shoes, they not only secure you to the ground and you can really squeeze it and use it and push off from it and, grind into it, but also the top of the shoe harnesses as well. So it's no good playing golf in a pair of flip-flops with spikes in, because you're just the top part. So for me, when I tried the shoes, the biggest component for me was that my foot was secure and stable in the shoe, and without being what I call torpedoed in, without being scrunched into the shoe. So I loved it. It was good, and I've got a very strong relationship with them now. I wear them every time I go and play golf. They're a great shoe. And then Briston Peterson with On Point. I mean, what a clever guy, and what a clever product. I mean, for years we've been using a two-dimensional coin, and our brains have had to make the distinction between something that's two-dimensional and then the ball and then the line. Well, here comes a guy who says, right, well, let's design a three-dimensional marker so your eyes don't have to work that hard. They can just like dial into it. So it's, you get the marker down, you line up the marker, which is really easy to do and a hell of a lot more accurate because it's dome shaped. Okay. And then you just line the ball up. I mean, it's so easy. So as Briston likes to say, he owns the space between the putter head and the ball. And he really does. On Point ball markers, I think, are from 10 feet and in. I mean, we talk about marginal gains in the game, but from 10 feet and in, you all of a sudden now you're thinking like a sniper, as opposed to hoping. So yeah, but both products, I'm very, I've seen a lot of products in my 32-year career. There are some that I wouldn't touch, but there are some that I think are truly innovative and have huge value. And those two just join the dots. Yeah.
Nick, there's a saying that musicians want to be athletes and athletes want to be musicians. And that's certainly true in our game. We see a lot of very popular musicians out there playing in tournaments and the pro-ams. And you're a very good musician. I love the video on your Instagram page of you playing guitar and singing. How long have you been playing guitar?
Oh, well, I am a frustrated musician. There's no, I mean, so I started playing started playing guitar when I was 10. And, I actually grew up in the same town as Eric Clapton. So, Clapton's kind of my guy, one of them. And so, yeah, I've always been into the blues and great guitar music. And listen, I love, if you looked in my Spotify account, you see everything there from Beethoven right through to Guns N' Roses and The Clash and whatever. So if it's good music, it's good music. But it's good because it reminds me, it serves to remind me that when I'm trying to learn a new riff or a new song, it puts me in the same environment as maybe a student golfer, and what it is it's repetition of good patterns, and all of a sudden your brain switches off and you've kind of got it, right? So it's the same with golf. When you're working on someone's golf swing and you're trying to change a pattern, you might have to try some different feels, some different visualizations. And when they get that eureka moment, all of a sudden habit kicks in and it doesn't need conscious thought anymore. And playing the guitar is the same. I mean, there are probably 10 to 15 songs that I could play, without a sheet of music in front of me. But there are probably 10 songs that I couldn't play unless I did. So, but one is just a bunch of songs that I've habitually practiced, and the other ones are ones that I, haven't made it into the hard drive yet. So I love guitar, I love music, and in fact, actually, you should have me on in about 2 or 3 months' time because I'm working on a very interesting music project in golf. Oh. So let's speak about that. Yeah, so yes. I'm bringing out the first music golf album.
Wow! All right. Yeah, I look forward to hearing all about that.
Yeah, but fortunately, I'm not singing.
You got a good voice. I thought the video was good of you singing.
Okay, well, you're my number one fan. You're my groupie. Thanks.
One other point about that video. I noticed in the background, there's a movie poster of the James Bond movie Live and Let Die, and the title track of that is one of my all-time favorites by Paul McCartney and Wings. I'm guessing it's one of yours as well?
Well, I mean, the whole James Bond thing, since the age of 10, in my second book, Kinetic Golf, in my introduction, I talk, because my books are very heavy on the imagery side. And I collect movie posters. I've got signed movie posters by, Roger Moore, and I've got George Lazenby signed, I've gotten the whole thing. So the way my imagination works is I see everything in big movie pictures. But yeah, certainly. I mean, Live and Let Die was Roger Moore's first Bond movie in '73, and I liked his first 3 ones. But I'm a huge Bond fan. Huge Bond fan.
Nick, one more before I let you go, and I want to get a quick tip. for the average weekend warrior who might be on his or her way out to the golf course or to the range when they're listening to the show? I want to get a tip for them. What is something quick that they can kind of keep in the back of their minds that when they go play this weekend that might help them shave a stroke or two off their score?
Really, just to be two things. I'm going to give them two. So number one, if they get the chance to warm up, just figure out where their ball flight is going, and if they hit 10 shots, just try and work out the average kind of like direction it's going, and go and play that one on the golf course, right? And then number two, just I'll give you a little pre-shot routine that actually I worked with Justin on for a few years, was to get behind the golf ball, take a deep breath in, to inhale, so you get what we call a theta wave going through the brain, and then blow the ball into flight. So, you just a nice deep breath. As you exhale, just let your eyes go with the ball flight, and then go into the ball and play the shot.
Perfect. Nick, before I let you go, let our listeners know, where can they go to get your books, and how can they follow you, whether it's on your website or on social media?
Yeah, so Instagram is Nick Bradley Golf. You can get my books from Amazon. Just type in Nick Bradley Golf, and the 3 will come up. My new book is called 50 Secrets to Great Golf You Don't Know About Yet, which is a departure for me. It's more of the written word. It's more strategy and mindset. And then for me personally, I'm at Westchester Country Club in Harrison, New York. So if you want to inquire about getting hold of me, you can do it through the pro shop and through that communication there.
Nick, it's always a huge privilege to get to spend some time with you. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show. I hope we get this privilege with you 2 or 3 months from now to hear all about what this music is. I can't wait.
Well, I always enjoy being on your show, Chris, and you ask really, smart questions and what have you, and a lot of respect to you, sir. So yeah, let's get together in 2 or 3 months' time.
Sounds great. Take care, Nick. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you, Nick.
Bye-bye.
That is the great Nick Bradley, folks. Again, so much greatness that came out of that conversation. First of all, the 2 tips you heard right there at the end. Ball flight direction. Whichever one, that swing that you go out there on the driving range with, hit 10 shots, hit 15 shots, watch the ball flight. Whichever way it's going that day, that's the way it's going to go that day. So go with it. Play it that way when you get out on the golf course. And then the pre-shot routine, I love. Blow the ball into flight. I love that. Deep breath in, blow the ball into flight. That's fantastic stuff. And look, go out there and follow Nick. So much of his content is just the absolute best. At Nick Bradley Golf is where you're going to find him on social media. Go check out his books. And then how intriguing is it? 2 to 3 months' time, he's going to marry some music with some golf. First, go out on the Instagram page. Go check out him playing guitar. And he's being very, very modest. I mean, his are very humble because his voice is great. So he's a very talented musician. I can't wait to see how he puts those 2 things together and what he's going to come up with in 2 or 3 months' time. It's going to be awesome. So I'm very excited to keep track of what happens and then to see how it goes over the next couple of months. And I promise I'll be following up with him and get him back on the show. All right, my friends, that's it. It is time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks again to Tom Patri and Nick Bradley for joining me this week. Scheduled to join me next time we're going to keep it rolling with the top instructors in the game. LPGA teaching and club professional Hall of Famer Nancy Corsolino will be back. And then making his Next on the Tee debut is North American sales manager for Mura Golf, Blake Smith, will join me. And I hope you guys will as well. I want to thank our friends again over at Trib Live for being such wonderful partners on this show and for hosting this show on their site. For the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond, including your favorite sports, go to triblive.com. You can find this show by then clicking on the Sports Section tab, and the most recent episode right there front and center for you on the homepage of the Sports Section. Or you can go to podcast.triblive.com. You can also find this show pretty much anywhere you get your podcast content. You guys know we're out there on Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, golfnewsnet.com. And folks, again, if you would do me just a quick favor, and wherever you're listening to this show today, click on the subscribe button and then rate the show. You guys know algorithms are everything. It's going to get the show in front of more golf fans just like you. I'll appreciate it very much, just like I do appreciating you each and every week. Why? Because you're the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts, bar none. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.